If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me on my website at nanice.com. Thank you.
It's your time for Chai with Nanice. Get ready for substance, clarity, change, and especially empowerment. Get ready to turn over stones, uncover stories, and get to the heart of the matter in every area of your life. Any mood runs, any emotion flies, and your dreams are within your grasp. There are no limits or boundaries, and your comfort zone is out of reach, yet it's the safest place you will ever be. Come in, sit down, and have some chai with Nanice.
Welcome to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice. For those of you who don't know, I actually live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm from New York, moved out here about 12 years ago to ski. And what they say about Utah is true, and that is people come out here for the winters and stay for the summers. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. And the summers are some of the most magnificent summers I've ever experienced in my life. I've traveled so many places in the world, but truly Salt Lake City, Utah is one of the most beautiful places. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to come with me on an adventure I had one evening. And it was an adventure of the soul. And there's a place not too far from my house, and it's called Bell Canyon. And it's a short hike up to a magical and beautiful place. And I often go there late summer nights and sit on a rock and watch the sunset over Salt Lake City, and it is truly magnificent. One particular night, I stayed past the sunset, and it had already been getting dark, and I was pretty much by myself except for an occasional animal that I heard in between the rocks or the trees. And as I sat there just reflecting and meditating, I started thinking of all the debt that I had in my life. Like so many of us, we think about the debt, but for some reason it was different this time. When I thought about the debt, instead of holding on to it, there was a feeling of releasing it. And a divine guidance was showing me a path to releasing debt. And well, I got immediately excited because, wow, to release debt, that's really amazing. And my mind took it as releasing all the debt that I owed. But when I cozied up on this big rock, what I was shown was just the opposite. What I was shown was I was to release all the debt that I held against others. All the debt that I believed others still owed me. At first I was shocked, but I was willing to go on that journey because I knew that on the other side was freedom. And so suddenly I was shown all the people in my life that I believed owed me something. And they were friends from long ago, and husbands from long ago, and even my children, and my mother, and my father, and teachers that I had in first and second grade. And the list went on and on and on. And I sat on that rock well over an hour just remembering all the people that I believed owed me something. I couldn't believe it because I never thought about it. I never thought that I believe somebody owed me something, but I was clearly shown that this was the case. So one by one, I released all these people that showed up in my mind, all these people that I believe owed me something. I released them one by one. I released to my mother and my father. I released to my grandmothers. I released teachers and boyfriends and friends and husbands and children, but it didn't end there. When I started reaching the bottom of my list, what I realized was that I also believed that nature owed me something, that life owed me something, that life owed me breath and water and food and comfort and all the things that I believed that I should have. And to that realization, I let that go too, and I realized that nothing and no one owed me anything. And in that moment, I was free. Nothing owed me anything. And it was then that I realized that the whole concept that anyone or anything could have owed me anything was absolutely ridiculous. Because if we really are one, how can anyone owe us anything? How can we owe anything? It would be like my left hand believing my right hand was in debt to it, or vice versa, or my left eye wanting something from my right eye. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Well, as I continued to meditate on debt and what it meant to release debt, not just for myself, but for others, suddenly I realized that what I was really talking about was forgiveness. That all the people that I believed owed me something were the very same people who were waiting in my unconscious mind to be released, to be forgiven. And in releasing them from debt, I forgave them. Well, today's show is about that. It's about forgiveness. We've all talked about forgiveness, and we've all tried to forgive, and sometimes we've been successful, and sometimes we haven't been so successful, and that's okay too. My hope for today's show is to give each and every one of you a gift, and that is to understand forgiveness in a totally different manner, and to be able to take that new understanding and use it in your life to free you from the debt that you believe you are entrapped in. So today, I'm sharing the show with my good friend, Lawrence Tweetu, and as we did a couple of weeks ago, he's going to interview me, and today it's going to be on forgiveness, so join us. Welcome to Chai. Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
Hi, Nanice. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Great to be on the show again, and I think you got it off to a really good start. And
Thank you.
It's a great topic for the new year because that's, I think, part of letting go of the past.
Yeah. It really takes a lot of energy to hold on to the past.
It does, and what I like about your story is that, you did like the master's course. Like, I know that all the suffering that you had done prior to sitting on that rock probably, accumulated to a point where you were able to immediately let go. And a lot of things, just one after the other. Once you understood the concept, I think, something clicked. And
yes.
Every area, including nature, including your parents, your friends, all these things, it just, you were able to release it all at once, which really is kind of an epiphany experience.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting. It's interesting because suddenly when you release this concept that anyone or anything owes you anything, what you're left with is sheer gratitude. So before that moment, I unconsciously believed that I was owed breath, and I was owed air. And once I got that, the earth or life didn't owe me breath, then suddenly I became very, very grateful. Very grateful. And it shifted everything for me.
Totally. I mean, I think another way I visualized that was that, you totally lifted the veil of the victim consciousness, the victim energy that was on you. And you started to realize, you know what, if I blame everybody, if I think everybody owes me, then I'm totally powerless. And, I'm just going to, I'm no longer comfortable in the victim role. I think that's more to the point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
It's another step. Yeah, definitely. At the time,
it may not have been conscious, and you may not have understood it in those terms at that time. But that's really what it was, I think. Right.
But that makes total sense, because when we believe that anything owes us anything or anyone owes us anything, we are a victim, because really the definition of a victim is powerless, that I can't create for myself, that I am not powerful to be sovereign. I am not, powerful enough to take care of myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And can I just read something that I think really relates to this? I don't know if you're. This is really. It relates to today's show very well. It's from Louise Hay, which I think everybody will attest is well founded in the roots of belief systems. So, right at the beginning of the book, where she tells you all about her life experience, how she suffered greatly from cancer and disease, and she went on to write a whole book about, which emotional states relate to which diseases. She writes, all disease comes from a state of unforgiveness. So I think what you're talking about today on the show is very important. It's not just something that affects us kind of in the quality of life. It's actually reducing our level of life to the point where our body and our mind suffers, and we suffer great illness. She writes, whenever we are ill, we tend to search our hearts to see who it is we need to search our hearts to see who it is we need to forgive. In the Course in Miracles, it says that all disease comes from a state of unforgiveness, and that whenever we are ill, we need to look around and see who it is that we need to forgive.
Yeah.
I would add to that concept, this is her talking, not me, that the very person you find it hardest to forgive is the one you need to let go of the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'll just stop there. It's unlike what you've gone through. I think for most of us, we need to kind of go through these things one by one. And most people typically, if you either meditate or you're holding a grudge or you have some kind of anger towards someone that you are aware of, and that's probably a great place to start, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wherever there's discomfort, that's telling us something. If you break the word disease down, disease, that you're not at ease. So where in your life are you not at ease? And a lot of times, we think that we've forgiven people, but we haven't. We've gone through the motions. Oh yeah, I forgave my father, or I forgave my mother, or I forgave, my ex-wife or my ex-husband, or, whoever it was. But yet, that really hasn't happened. And in fact, if you have to ask, have I forgiven this person? Then you haven't. Even if the concept of forgiveness still exists, then you haven't forgiven that person. Because surely when forgiveness happens, when it really, really occurs at a core level, the concept of forgiveness completely disappears. You can't even grasp onto the terms of having forgiven that person.
What about this one? I've heard this a lot. Some people say, I forgive, but I won't forget.
Mm-hmm. They haven't forgiven. What does that mean? I forgive, but I won't forget. What they're really saying is, yeah, of course. My mother used to say that. My mother, yeah. Absolutely.
So that's basically saying, I forgive, but I don't forgive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, you're saying that you haven't forgiven. So people who say, well, I've forgiven, but I don't forget. What they're really saying is, I will pretend to forgive you and go on with my life as if I've forgiven you, but I remember exactly what happened, and I'm going to keep my heart closed just enough so that it cannot happen to me again. Well, that whole concept of keeping your heart closed so you can't get hurt again is exactly what Louise Hay is talking about. That's where the forgiveness needs to happen. Because as soon as we close off our hearts, what we're really doing is shutting down the energy in our body. We store issues in our body. So if I'm angry at you, or I'm angry, at somebody from my past, or somebody, who cut me off on the street today or whatever, then what I'm really doing is I'm pushing it down into my body and I'm storing it. And wherever I happen to store that energy is where blocks are created. And when blocks are created, that's where that part of the body is not at ease. And that's where disease, illness, sickness occurs. It's really very simple. It's really very simple. And the upside of that is the body wants to return to health. The body has a desire to return to wholeness, which wholeness is health. And the only way that we can return to wholeness is by releasing those blocks and obstacles energetically that are stored in our body. And the way that we do that is by giving them back. Forgiving, giving them back. I will give that back. I will give that back. So it's like, I believe someone said something bad to me. It hurt me. Well, I'm going to forgive that person by giving it back. I'm not going to own it. That's really what forgiveness is. And I would love to share a little story that happened on Christmas Eve, so just about a week or so ago. And that is, we went out to dinner, family dinner. And April, my daughter-in-law's father, came with us, and he usually joins us for family get-togethers, and it's very lovely. And went to this big Italian place, and, we shared the meal and everything. This was after we went ice skating, which was really awesome. And so there we are, and I'm not even sure what we were talking about. Someone should just follow me around with a tape recorder or a video camera because it's always quite a journey. It's always quite a journey. But somehow we got to this place of his mother, and it very well be that I was sensing his mother passed away many, many years ago, and I may have well been sensing her energy around him. In fact, I believe that that's what happened. So I started speaking to him about his mother, and his mother when she was alive and through his whole childhood, really put him down a lot and made sure that he knew how unworthy he was. And in fact, before she died, she sent him this letter. And in this letter, she made it very clear what she thought about him, and it wasn't so nice. It was as bitter and brutal as you could possibly get. And he was left with this awful feeling of just complete unworthiness. Here he's been trying to struggle with it, get it through, get past it from his childhood, and here it is again. And his mother died after that, soon after that. He had a dream one night, and his mother came to him, and in the dream his mother asked for his forgiveness. And so he believed that he forgave her. So here we are years later, and I'm sensing his mother, there, and I'm sensing that she's actually been following him around for all these years, and I asked him about that, and he indicated that, yeah, he has felt her. He's felt her presence there, but he's forgiven her. He says, I've forgiven her. I'm not really sure what she wants. And in that moment, I got it, Lawrence. I totally got what forgiveness is, and it's this. So...
What was the relationship of this guy to you?
So my daughter-in-law's father, so like an in-law.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So Richards forgave his mother. He went through the motions. Yeah, I forgive you. Yet, for all these years since, he's still been telling himself that he's unworthy, he's not good enough. Mm-hmm. He's been telling himself all the things that his mother used to tell him. And so he went through the motions of, I forgive you, Mom, and believing that he released her, but in fact, he's still doing everything to himself that she did to him when she was alive. And in that way, forgiveness has not happened at all. We haven't given forgiveness until we release and give up the words or the deed that we are forgiving the other person for saying or for doing. So in other words, if we're still harboring those words or the energy of the deed, then we've accepted it as our own personal truth, and then we are actually using them to keep ourselves small, powerless, and living in some kind of emotional or physical scarcity. Think about this. True forgiveness can only occur when and if we give it up. We give up the words that person once said to us. We give up the energy of the deed that they once did to us. And we completely stop using those words, and we stop using that negative energy against ourselves. It's like if we are still harboring and taking advantage of the words that person gave us or did to us, then what we're doing is we're using that person as an excuse to play small and live in fear. We're actually handing our power away and then blaming that person for our inadequacies so that we don't have to take responsibility for our own lives. And then we get to show up in the world small because we're blaming them. In true forgiveness, we must literally give back those words and the energy of that deed and take no further ownership of them. Otherwise, nothing's been forgiven. Only when we give back the words that have been said to us, only when we give back the energy of the deed that has been done to us, do we free ourselves. And that is true forgiveness. So the concept of forgiveness really does happen within us. There's really no one else to forgive. As long as we're harboring the energy that someone else inflicted upon us, even if we go through the motions, I forgive you, I forgive them, we really haven't, because we're still using their energy in order to keep ourselves small. We're still holding on to it. Literally, a giving back must occur in order for forgiveness to take place.
You know what? I do have some questions on that, Nanice, to kind of clarify. But before we continue on that road, which I really love, I got to ask you this: if I or anyone goes out on a date with you and we go skating and we go to a restaurant, does that mean the conversation is always going to end up about my mother? Does that mean at some point, if you and I spend enough time together, the conversation somehow is always going to be about my mom and all the things that that happened when I was a kid that I'm trying to correct?
Only if you want it to, and only if we go to an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
So, if those conditions are met, then absolutely.
That's a heavy date. That's really... No, but getting back to what you were saying, I really, I heard something that was cool. We talked last week about worthiness. So, how does exactly forgiveness tie in with worthiness, if you could sort of explain that a little better?
Oh, I love that. Oh, that is such a great question, Lawrence. And I've never been asked this question before. So this is going to be a whole new piece of this this work. So awesome.
It's important because we're talking about what not to do. So what I'm trying to get at is now what should we do?
Yeah. So this is the connection between worthiness. Whenever someone is questioning their own worth, which most people are questioning their own worth. I've been working with people all around the world for many, many years now in many, many countries, and truly core issues, disempowering issues, always go back to unworthiness. And so this connection between worthiness and forgiveness is very clear, that if someone feels unworthy or perceives themselves as unworthy, there's definitely something to forgive, because that means that they've taken on concepts or they've taken on some sort of energy that tells them that they're less than worthy. Now, where did that come from? Very well may have come from their childhood or past relationship, past lives. Who knows where it came from? But if there's a sense of unworthiness there, that means that there's something to let go. We are intrinsically worthy, so there's nothing that we can do to prove our worth. It's done. We can, literally vegetate on top of a mountain and eat berries for the rest of our lives and be completely worthy. Having said that, I've been shown another concept of worthiness that's in the context of this reality, which we can speak about if you like. But so when we experience unworthiness, we absolutely know that there's something to forgive, because true forgiveness is giving up concepts and beliefs that are disempowering and don't work to support who we are and what we want to do with our lives.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, good question.
And so I think what's happening is to give somehow those concepts and beliefs outside of our consciousness, but it have been constructed at a point in time that have come from somebody who has cast upon us, perhaps we perceive them to cast upon us some sort of negative trait. Let's say, you have no brains. This is something that I personally remember, coming to my mind, from my mother, okay?
Right.
So, she might have said, I have no brains.
I like that little cough in there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm at the restaurant with you now.
Okay.
So perhaps from those innocent words in that moment when I did something that provoked my mother, I perhaps took it to heart, which I'm sure I might have, and I might have held it against her. I might have felt bitter. And that caused me to create a belief system that, maybe, something like I am, we talked about it last time, I can't even say it, but let's say I am not smart. Because I don't like to use I am in vain. But let's just say that, somebody said I am not smart. And, I grew up with that belief system, which eventually helped reinforce my unworthiness kind of way of being. So this is, I think, kind of a little bit of the geometry around, how unworthiness forms negative belief systems that come from people who we are still holding this energy against that needs to be forgiven. Is that kind of a good way to look at it?
Right. Absolutely. So it's like if you believe that I am not smart, and it creates this feeling of unworthiness, then you're actually using that person's energy that they projected upon you. So they're literally, so your mom, for example, projected energy onto you. You are not smart. You took that energy, because words are energy. It's like we know that words create, thoughts create life. So of course there's an energy involved. So she projected this energy of, you are not smart. You took that energy because you didn't have to take that energy. If I throw a snotty rag at you, you don't have to catch it. It's your choice. But you're a young child, and young children do catch things, especially things that their parents throw to them. So your mom throws this energy of, you are not smart. You catch that energy, and now you make that energy your own, and from that energy you develop beliefs that revolve around that, which add up to I am not worthy.
Right.
So you can go and you can go to your mom and say, Mom, I forgive you, for saying that I'm not smart or, telling me that or whatever. I forgive you for that. But as long as you're going through your life feeling unworthy and having to prove that you're smart or any variation of that, you really haven't forgiven your mother because you're still owning the energy that she has projected upon you. You've only forgiven her when you evolve to a certain point and recognize your own worthiness. You own your own worth, intrinsic and independent and unconditionally, so that the energy of I am not smart has nowhere to settle within you. It's released because it can't be magnetized to worthiness. It's released. It goes back and doesn't even necessarily go back to her. It's more released into the ethers, back into the universe, and that's when you free yourself and you free her, and forgiveness actually has taken place.
There's so much to be said about that, but I think it's pretty clear what's going on, kind of the dynamics of what is going on, to the extent where I think people understand that. And the question that came to my mind, though, like, if you could go back to that point in time before you sat on that rock and you were living kind of in a victim sort of, it serves people to be in a victim mentality and not take responsibility. Or
well, let me stop you right there, Lawrence, because there's all different levels of everything. So, even up to the point where I sat on the rock, I took responsibility for everything in my life. So this is a really important piece here, because everything that happened, I took responsibility for. So even if somebody said something to me that I didn't like, I saw it as a projection of my subconscious beliefs that projected onto them, and they projected back onto me. So there wasn't one area of my life that I did not take responsibility for. But when I was shown this concept of believing that someone still owed me something, and I'll give you some examples here in a second, that took this to a whole new level. So yes, I do agree that it's another variation of victimhood, but it's a very, very hidden variation. There was never a point up to sitting on that rock, for many, many years that I ever blamed anyone for anything, and that's a really important piece. When I understood this concept of holding people in debt because I believed they owed me something emotionally or any other way, that took it to a whole new level of release for me. But I don't know if I would have been able to get to that point if I hadn't first taken responsibility for my life in every way. This is a whole new facet of the same concept.
Yes, I agree. I think that goes back to choice, like we spoke about last show, which has an amazing power behind it that, it transforms. And I think that's why, at that point, you were literally transformed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing that's interesting, I know that, everybody has different views and thoughts about religion, but I always like to kind of take from anywhere my inspiration, and I noticed that in every religion, if you think about it, at least the ones I know, like in Christianity, you can go and you can, forgive me, I'm Jewish, so what do they call that, confession?
Confession.
So you go to confession, right, and you speak to somebody, and you speak, your biggest, darkest secrets.
Yes.
And basically, through the medium of a God or some sort of belief system, you are forgiven. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I know that in the Jewish religion that there's a day, like on Yom Kippur, it's the Day of Atonement, you are forgiven for your sins just after the New Year.
Yes.
I always wondered about that. I always said, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Even though I don't necessarily need all this, if you want to call the structure around forgiveness, that I could go to a secondary person. But the elements of forgiveness are embedded in cultures, in religions and ancient cultures, because I think at some level somebody figured out that this is a very healthy and important thing to do on a regular basis.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I totally agree. And I love that you brought this concept up about confession. What I was shown a few weeks ago was this: that for those who don't know, and I was raised Catholic. and Jewish at the same time. My dad was Jewish, my mother was Catholic, so I was very familiar with both religions, and came to the conclusion they both couldn't be right, and went off on my own spiritual path. But going back to confession, so for those who don't know, it's like in the Catholic religion, you go to a confessional, and you go in this little booth, and there's a priest on the other side, and you tell the priest your worst sins, whatever that might be for you, and then the priest forgives you, tells you to say some prayers, and you're forgiven, you're set free. Well, what I was shown recently was that confession, the way that it originated, is not what it is now. And, most of us know that religions have really changed over the centuries, and they have really moved away from what they started out as, and many religions are more about power and control now than true spirituality and knowing God. That's another show. Having said that, what I was shown was that the originally confession, priests were really theta healers. And what that means is people would come into the confessional to confess. So they would confess their sin. What sin really is just a misbelieving, so it's a misperception. That's what sin is. Sin isn't actually something that you've done. Sin really is like a misbelief, like a false, disempowering belief. And that may result in actions and behaviors, but it's really this belief. So people would come into a confessional and sit, across from a priest, and the priest would say, what is it that you confess? And the person would, well, I confess this and this and this. And then the priest would ask, well, do you release this? Do you give this up? And when the person willingly gave it up, what the priest would do would be literally theta healing, where they would change the subconscious patterns of the person in order to release that from their energy field. And so they were forgiven in the sense that person confessed it, gave it up to the priest, and the priest, as a theta healer, a clearer of energy, would release that out of that person's energy field. Isn't that cool? Right?
That is cool. How'd you learn that?
I was shown that in meditation.
Oh, nice.
One night a few weeks ago. Yeah. It's interesting, Lawrence, because all information is available to all of us. So many of us and rely on books and movies and all kinds of things, but information is available to us. It's all there. All we have to do is ask. So if somebody really wants to know about something, instead of going to the bookstore, the library, or the TV or whatever, just go into a quiet meditation and ask. And the way that I do that, I will just say something like, "Show me, what is the truth about this?" And then I'll just witness what it is. And right. When it reveals itself, there's a knowing. It's like, wow, yeah, I know that that's true. And then if there's something you don't understand or pieces that you haven't been shown, you just show me more. Show me more. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And the things that really are important to you at that moment really pop out. That's like when you say the universe is always speaking to us. Well, it gets louder, it gets softer, and it's not necessarily the words in the book. It could be the color. It could be the page number. It's whatever, I totally get it.
Right.
But so that's awesome. So we covered a little bit about religion, which kind of says, which is what I've always believed, is that, religions at one point in time, they were based on, something that was, a little more real. And obviously, like you said, they've evolved in such ways, but you could still see the remnants there, and
right.
Definitely we've, I kind of had this concept, maybe we could do it sometime. It's kind of like a game show. The game show would be called, Who Has the Power? And I think what you're all about, Nanice, is empowerment. And I think that's why we're talking about forgiveness, because I just want to relate to listeners, kind of a visual. I want people to sense a situation or a person where they have not forgiven, and I would like people to just feel what that's like for a moment, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, I can do a short guided meditation.
Yeah, let's do that, because I want people to feel what it's like to really hold a grudge against something and not forgive it. And I want them to think about that and feel it. Go for it.
Yeah, so let's start there. That's a great place to start, Lawrence. Thank you. Oh, you're a genius. Okay. So just imagine someone that you haven't forgiven. Whoever pops into your head first is fine. If you're saying, well, I thought I forgave them, well, you haven't, because they're still there. So just think about what that feels like. Think about what that feels like. All right? Feel what that feels like. Okay. Okay, good. Now imagine the center of the earth. And this is a beautiful golden light in the center of the earth. And this is the earth's heart chakra. And the earth actually has 3 heart chakras. And for now, I want you to imagine the one at the center of the earth's heart chakra, golden ball of light. And imagine that this energy moves out in all directions, equally powerful. And this energy moves up through the earth, through the core of the earth, through all layers of the earth, the surface of the earth, into the bottom of your feet. And this pure golden light moves through the bottom of your feet, up through your legs, through your torso, through your arms, neck, head, all the way out the top of your head, going, and connecting to Source, so that you are both plugged into the earth and to Source. And just feel that energy flowing in your body, and it may feel like a subtle electricity or heat or waves or pulsating. You may want to open your hands, the palms of your hands, and feel the energy vibrate even more in the palms of your hands. And take a deep breath and let that energy vibrate. And now think about the same person. And what was their gift? Now, a gift doesn't necessarily mean that it's something positive. A gift can be anything. A gift is anything that you take and receive. So if someone said something to you that wasn't so nice, or did something, or betrayed you, or anything like that, lied to you, cheated, whatever that is, and you took it, you took the energy of that, that means that you have received their gift, and you have been harboring and holding on to their gift. Now, within yourself think, is this a gift that supports me? Is this a gift that doesn't support me? Now, obviously, in some ways it has supported you up to now, otherwise you wouldn't be keeping it. But those ways in which it has supported you may not be productive and empowering ways. They may, in fact, be ways that have protected you and kept you small and powerless. And maybe it's time to let go of anything that you have been using, any gifts that you have been using to keep yourself small and powerless. And imagine, what would it be like to release this gift? The words, the deed, the energy. What would that be like? Now, there might be some fear that comes up. If I release this, then that person can hurt me again, or someone else can hurt me again. But look deep inside your heart and find the place inside your heart that knows that you have been hurting yourself so much more than anyone has ever hurt you. And in fact, in your fear of being abandoned or hurt or rejected by someone else, you have been hurting, abandoning, and rejecting yourself. And this is the true pain. And it's time to let it go. The way in which you let it go is by letting love in. Let love in. So take a deep, deep breath and imagine love coming in through the breath. And again. Imagine love coming in through the breath and sending that love to where you hold on to this gift, this betrayal, this hurt. Is it in your heart, your solar plexus, your stomach? Find the place everywhere and let the love go to those places. Beautiful. And as it does, watch and experience the dissolution of the illusion. And let go. And as you do, you realize there was nothing to ever hold on to, that in fact it was your own illusion of what was done to you, your own illusion of what was said to you, your own illusion of how someone else might have hurt you, your own illusion of even you hurting yourself. And like all illusions, once the light is shed upon them, They dissolve. Because in the end, only love is real, and all else is an illusion. Only love is real.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nanice.
You're welcome, Lawrence. That was fun.
It is an illusion. The way you know it's an illusion is that when you have this grudge against somebody and you're not,
yes,
you're pissed off at them, you know that at that moment they're not thinking about you. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not pissed at you while you're pissed at them. I mean, you may want them to be pissed. You may want them to be upset. But if years, days, or weeks, or months, or years, that by, and you've been upset with a friend or a family member, I mean, at that moment, basically, you've given your power to them, and they don't even know it. It's just between you and you. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
It's just a concept.
It's just a concept. It's all just a concept.
Just the concept of not forgiving somebody is it's not benefit. It's putting you at a definite disadvantage, and that's why you need to get your power back. And so
it's about getting power back. So it's like it's remembering ourselves. So it's like, so the way I think of remembering, the way I've been shown is remembering, it's like, so there's parts of us. So the parts of us are members of us. And so every time we're mad at somebody or we think someone owes us something, what we're really doing is giving a part of ourselves over to them. And that part stays with that person until we give up the energy that we've taken on. So once we give up that energy, then we take back or remember that part of us, and that's how we remember ourselves. The return to wholeness is remembering ourselves. We're all a puzzle and pieces of the puzzle. So as I remember all of me, and I remember all of me by taking those parts that I have given away, where I've given my power away to others, where I believe others owe me something, or I believe others have hurt me, when I let go of that, when I release that, when I release the debt and take back everything that I think others have owed me, then what's happening is I'm remembering myself, putting myself back together. When I remember me, then I can help you remember you, because then I see you. I can see you. And then you take your pieces back. You remember yourself, and then you see someone else, and, then they take their pieces back. And so it's like we all become complete pieces of the greater puzzle, and the greater puzzle is the collective consciousness of this planet. And this is how we transform the world. This is how we transform our lives. This is how we transform everything that we have ever known and will ever know. This is the remembering, putting ourselves back together so that we can put the planet back together.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm totally down with that, because that's sort of the similar exercise that we worked on sort of together. And it's not an easy concept. It's kind of an advanced concept, but I think if I had to put it in other words, is that everything that we experience around us is a representation of us. And so when we are at odds with something else in our experience, whether it's a person or a place or a thing or a country or anything, we are actually at odds with a representation of ourselves. And I could probably go further and say that representation is occurring specifically so that you can bring it back.
Absolutely.
In other words, you are creating that representation for the sole purpose of knowing that part of yourself, become aware of it, and embracing it. And it's
because you couldn't see it if it wasn't inside of you. You could not see it. So this is another part of the same concept. Absolutely, that it's all us and nothing's happening out there. So if I witness even a fight on the street, it's because on some subconscious level that's inside of me, and I'm reflecting it outward.
Right.
There really is nothing out there.
That's right. And
so I'd love to share a story with you that recently happened to me.
Yeah.
It's the first time I'm sharing it publicly, and actually it happened about a week ago.
Sure.
And it's really it's a story of forgiveness, but I didn't know it was happening to me when it happened. Well, recently, a friend of mine gave me some pretty harsh feedback that was kind of shocking, and it really it brought up a lot of feelings for me, and I was trying to figure out what was real. Why did it come up like that? Why did my friend could have given it to me peacefully? Why did it come up in such a way that it did? And I was really looking at that and questioning that. I was driving home from yoga one night, and just looking at that, and all of a sudden I remembered something that I had forgotten, and I almost can't believe that I forgot this, and it's that when I was a kid, I was very much abused by other kids. So it's like every day that I went to school, or even at home, there were kids that harassed me, abused me verbally and physically and emotionally, and in every which way, and no matter what school I went to, it went on. So this went on for about 10 years until I was about 14 years old, and it stopped about that time, 14 or 15. But up until that point, every single day was an absolute horror. And I know a lot of kids go through this, and it's awful. So I know a lot of people can identify with what I'm saying. So somehow I'd forgotten that I went through this, and as I was driving home from yoga, last week or the week before, and I was thinking about I wonder why this feedback came up this way. Suddenly I realized that my friend who had given me the feedback recently, she was right. Everything that she said was right. She was right. And I was so taken back by the way that it was presented that I couldn't see what it was, and it was right. And in that moment, I remembered about my childhood experience, and then suddenly it hit me. Lawrence, everything that anyone ever said to me as a child, all the abuse and the horrible things, they were right too. They were right. They were 100% right. I've been spending my whole life trying to prove them wrong, And it got me pretty far because I became, I had to prove them wrong, so I had to become, a great, powerful person and, show the world. But I also realized that I can't go any further until I let that go. And in that moment that I realized that they were right, a whole nother level of freedom was reached. They were right, and and the thing is, it's okay. Everything that they said to me, and even how they said it was okay.
So what was it?
It didn't matter. What's that?
What was it?
What was it? What did they say to me?
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah. Oh, you know what? I can't even remember, but it was things about, how I looked and how I thought and, who I was. They didn't miss a beat. It was everything you could have imagined. And they were right.
How could they have been right?
They were right. They were right. I was stupid, and I dressed awful, and I wore these stupid plaid polyester leisure suits to school because my mother wanted me to. And
I remember that.
Yeah, that's a story in my book.
I remember
Absolutely.
in your book. Yeah, in your book.
Yeah.
But you were beautiful. You were beautiful as who you were. You just didn't know it. I mean, all of us were dressed like geeks. I mean, it was like what the 40s and 50s, and if your parents grew up in
it was the 60s and 70s. You're aging me out quite a bit there, so but I forgive you.
I don't even know age, but I don't even know. I was born I grew up in the 60s as well, 70s.
And the point is this, that it didn't matter, that they had every right to say those things to me, and instead of making them wrong and having to prove them wrong, I got to this place in my life where the freedom came to seeing that they were right, and in that place, forgiveness happened on a whole nother level. There's all these levels of forgiveness, and that forgiveness totally freed me because now I didn't have to prove them wrong anymore. Yeah.
Now, what if you couldn't make that connection, though? What if you were somebody said something to you, and you can somehow find the mindset to realize that this is you talking to you, okay? It's not like this person is insulting you. Okay, let's say you are that advanced, because already that is a huge step if someone can do that.
But because it's all about us, and so we just take responsibility for it. I'm seeing we only have about another minute here, so I take responsibility for it. I take anything that anyone says to me, I take responsibility for, because it's really my subconscious mind projecting itself out into the world. And so if somebody is mean to me or does something mean to me, I forgive them. Somebody hit my car, a couple of months ago, and and I was in the shop for over a month, almost totaled the car, and inside of me, I forgave. I said, I'm sorry inside of me, because there was something inside of me that created that, and this person was just acting it out. So instead of blaming them, I said, I'm sorry, and I mean it. I'm sorry.
Hey, one last quick question. Do you think that by doing this process and forgiving instantaneously as much as possible, you attract less of those incidences which require forgiveness over time?
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I would say also.
Absolutely.
And I think
It
that's
could be no
the key,
other way.
which
Absolutely.
basically means your life gets a lot better over time.
It sure does, every single day. Thank you so much, Lawrence. You're amazing, and I love you.
All right, love you too.
You'll be back
Thank
in a
you very
few
much.
weeks. Okay, thanks.
Okay, see you soon. Ciao. Kisses. Bye.
Ciao. Love you. So I'd like to end today's show about a personal letter to the world, to everyone that I have ever hurt. And it's this: please forgive me. To all those I have ever hurt intentionally or unintentionally, please forgive me by releasing the wound that I inflicted upon you through the sins of my word or deed. My actions and words were misgivings, and I take them back. In forgiving me, I ask that you give them back. Please forgive me by remembering your value and worth, and by reclaiming the power of who you really are. Please forgive me by remembering yourself, and so that I can remember my own self. Please forgive me by being true to yourself and rejoicing in the beauty of who you really are, as I rejoice with you, seeing you as the glorious and magnificent being of who you really are. Please come visit me on my website at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Take the pledge. Even if you've taken it already, come, click on the pledge, watch the video, download a brand new certificate that you can hang on your wall. It's amazing. Download a free I Am book, free song downloads, tons of articles, and a new article that's coming out on forgiveness that you can email me for, and I'll send it right to you. Have an amazing, amazing week. I will see you next week. My guest on next week's show is the famous Alan Cohen. He's the best-selling author of The Dragon, Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and many, many other amazing books and products. And it will be an awesome show. He's absolutely my favorite author in the whole wide world. So come back next week to LA Talk Radio, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I am Nanice. This is Chai with Nanice. Have an awesome week, and I love you all. Bye for now.
Thank you for having Chai with Nanice. Please go to www.nanice.com for great free stuff that will empower you to live your best possible life. Free books, articles, shows, meditation audios, and so much more at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Nanice's books are also available in all major bookstores and Amazon. Check out The Infinite Power of You, Even Gandhi Got Hungry and Buddha Got Mad, Zest Point, Lip Prints, and many others by Nanice Ellis. To find out about one-on-one coaching and how Nanice can personally coach you to experience your best life possible, please email mybestlife@nanice.com.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me on my website at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Thank you.